Okay. Welcome everybody. I'm here for another edition of Rockin' with B Rock, and tonight my guest is the guys from American Jetset. We have Kevin, who is the bass guitarist. We have Jeff, who is the Thunder, the foundation, the drummer, and we have Ian, who is the vocalist of the group. Um, Lance is on vacation in Costa Rica. If you look closely, you can see his little picture up there standing by a pool with his little guitar in his hand, and that is his contribution to tonight's broadcast. So, welcome everybody. How y'all doing tonight?
Hey, good man. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Now, you guys have been around not very long. You guys are really just starting out, really, because 2020, like we discussed before this, was a shit show. Nobody did anything, and you guys basically hit the scene in 2018. Um, so, really, a band is made up of many different personalities. I mean, you've got five guys, five different personalities. In your case, it's four guys, and right, four guys, yeah, four guys, four different personalities. So, let's start with you, Jeff. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What you do. It doesn't need to be like musical related. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and like musical influences that you had early days, and basically tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I have my own company, which has a couple different record labels. Some of them are rock and roll. Some of them are children's music, things like that. We produce a ton of music, and that's what I do. That's my job. Also,
Did you do Baby Shark?
No, I didn't do Baby Shark.
Oh, yeah.
The company is called Jammy Jams, and we do lullaby music.
Nice.
We have Little Headbangers. One of our labels was up at M3 for a couple of years, and we sold heavy metal onesies and stuff like that, and the music. So that's what I do for a living. That was to cap off the couple decades in marketing, and I'm glad to not be there anymore.
Nice.
Or at least to be marketing my own thing instead of others. But I live right outside of DC in Bethesda, and that's pretty much what I do is just produce the music and play drums with these guys. I was born in '74, so the '80s music was really important to me. That's what I grew up on. When I started playing drums, I was watching Motley Crue, and I was watching Rat, and I was watching, whatever MTV was throwing at me. And then, of course, Circus and Rip and all that kind of stuff. So that music always meant a lot to me, and I never stopped going to it. However, I never played that style of music with a band. I played it on my own, but every time I joined a band, it was a punk band or a new wave band or whoever needed a drummer, right? So when this came together, Ian and I had known each other a few years, and we were just like, dude, let's start a band that is what we love. Bands that, music that's influenced by, what we grew up on. And that's kind of how this band was born, was just, Ian and I kept in touch over years, doing other business. And, I busted his balls for years trying to get him to do it. And then one day he's like, yeah, I think you're right. Here's 4 demos, all the artwork, the logo, the name of the band, and I'm like, holy shit. I mean, it was like he decided one night, yes, and then did it all. It was amazing.
Nice. That's cool. Ian, a little bit about yourself. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I'm Ian, singer of the band, and I grew up in Fairfax, Virginia. I know you're in South Carolina, but the show's local. So for the local folks, grew up in Fairfax, Virginia, born in Fairfax Hospital. Been a musician my whole life. Spent much of the 80s in glam bands and a bunch of goofy stuff doing, Poison covers and a bunch of originals. Didn't go anywhere, but ended up later in the 2000s in a fairly well-known band called 23 Rainy Days, sort of a pop goth band that was actually the way in which Jeff and I met. His band Hollow Boy and our band had done some touring together and shows locally, and it was just great experience at the time, and we hit it off and kept in touch. Like he said, doing business. I actually run a small branding firm locally too, and so I ended up doing some work for Jeff. And every day it was him bothering me. Like he said, it was like, I'm going to M3. When are we going to do an M3 band? I'm like, what do you mean an M3 band? We can't do that. It's over with. I'm done, And
I'm sending him pictures from shows going, dude, I'm at a fire hose swinger show and look behind me and there's like 2,000 people. He's like, really? Really?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, dude.
I know. And he wore me down. And and at the time, I was actually, believe it or not, I was doing this Christian metal project. I mean, a super heavy, like Lamb of God, but Christian metal project. And I thought, I could do some faster blues right now.
Heck yeah.
And we ended up writing basically the first record in about 3 weeks. And I talked Kevin into it, and that's it. We went and found Lance and just started running at it straight ahead.
Nice.
I believe Ian brought Kevin to our first practice. Kevin didn't even know that morning what he was going to be doing. Like Ian's like, after work, I got a bass in the car, and he literally drove him to our very first practice.
He literally said,
Plug in.
"Hey, what are you doing after work?" Yeah, he said, "What are you doing after work? You want to lay some bass tracks down for me?" I'm like, I don't have a bass handy. He's like, I got you covered. and I said, well, when? Like thinking like a week or two. He's like, tomorrow. And I'm like, can you send me some demos? And he did, and I learned them. And within a day or two, I met Jeff, and it was okay. We're gonna do this thing. So it's awesome. I'm Kevin, by the way.
Hey, Kevin, what's happening? Yeah. I know these guys really didn't let you. Nobody appreciates the bass player. They don't really let him talk.
I thought I was the quiet one, so they forgot.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and originally, the three of us were looking for a singer, and Ian was going to write the songs and just play, guitar. And he had talked to a bunch of different guys, a bunch of people flaking out, and one day the three of us are practicing, and Ian, we're playing the songs he wrote, and he's like, "Yeah, I wrote lyrics for these." And we're like, "Well, just sing along," and then I was like, "Dude, we don't need a singer. We need another guitar player," and that's pretty much how that went down. And Ian plays some leads, but he's mostly doing rhythm. And then we put out an ad, and that's where Lance came in, all the way from Costa Rica.
Yeah,
all the way from. Does he live in Costa Rica?
No, dude.
Or is he just like, okay, whenever there's an interview coming up, he jets the set?
He is there or in Mexico probably 4 times a year.
To be fair, he wanted to live in Costa Rica for sure.
He said he's living there in the next 10 years. So
really,
right.
Yeah, they got white crocodiles or white alligators down there, I guess.
Dude, he's hanging out at his place, and there's like 3 monkeys on his balcony. He's like, "Yeah, look at this," and I'm like,
"Monkeys are attacking him or something."
Called security.
That would be cool. All right, now.
Attacked by monkeys.
Now you kind of went into how you guys met, how you guys hooked up. Yeah. So that's cool. Because I was looking and, do a little bit of research on you guys before I did this. And, you guys basically formed the band in October of 2018. And then your first CD was released, or the EP was released December of 2018. I'm like, man, them guys is quick. What happened here? So basically, Ian, you had everything written and everything ready to go. And you just said, all right, I got my guys, let's go.
Yeah. I hate saying that I did it all, because I know that this is, I demoed a lot of that early material, but the thing is, I was going back to Jeff and saying, "Hey Jeff, what do you think of this?"
Right.
There was it was a back and forth for a while. I think that people kind of forget that, but it was really just a sort of a gut check. Like, is this what we're going for, kind of thing? Because I was coming out of literally writing drop B metal in this Christian metal band, and I just wanted to make sure that I was writing music. This was one of the goals, was when we wrote music, if it felt dated like the 80s, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to write music that sounded like it was a tribute to that music, but was now, it was modern enough that people would want to hear it now if they were into that kind of stuff. So a lot of it was like that gut check. Like, is this too cheesy? And there's a couple that made it onto the EP, the first EP, that I thought possibly were going down that road, but after the production started, it was my fears were alleviated. So very happy with that first record.
Yeah, and Ian knew that if we were going to want to start playing shows, if we were going to want to start getting some good gigs, we had to have the record out. So so he really wanted to get that. He didn't want to be sitting there looking for a show trying to figure out what our logo was and what the band name was and what the image. It was done. Like he wanted that before we looked for our first show. That was behind us, and I think that helped a lot because we played our first show with a couple locals, and our first show was a sold out show. It was smaller. A couple other local bands. I think one or two of them were doing a CD release that night, and besides that show, I mean, every single one of them that we played has been with the National.
That is the only local show we've ever played.
Yeah. So I mean, our third show was opening for Living Color. So you know what I mean? It was just kind of like, boom.
Bam,
and it was awesome.
And the chemistry had to be there too, right?
Yeah.
So we got Lance in there, and we had to embellish because we had to fill out some sets, and you touched on Living Color, and it was one of those things that actually became a joke in the studio. We'd be kind of rehearsing something, and somebody would have to go pay the parking meter or the restroom, and they come back, and there's the other guys they're all playing something, and it's like, is that a song? And then all of a sudden, like the next week, it's a song, and it's like, okay. And then trial and error, going through the motions, and and Ian, who never sleeps, the rest of us do. His mind never shuts down. Was able to put it all back together and take it apart, put it back together with the lyrics and do the things because we had to move quick because we did start filling up our schedule there before after that first that CD release. So.
Yeah, the biggest thing I think that was a benefit there is that because Jeff and I were in bands that were either signed and or with big management companies, we already knew like promoters and that were still in the business, which was unusual because a lot of promoters are just gone. And thankfully our bands were well known enough that I was like, hey, look, we can do this. When I was selling, even though the band hadn't played a day, one show. They knew who we were, so that helped.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, he was doing magic tricks, dude, like I'd never seen, and I'd been in the music business for a long time, and it was like before our very first show, he already had us booked at the Whiskey in LA.
I saw that,
but that was later, but
on
still,
my birthday.
he booked it before we'd even played a show.
Yeah. And sometimes it would be surprised. We'd be sitting there, and he'd be like, "Hey, do you have this date open?" And we'd go, let's check. Okay, yeah, we're good." He'd be like, "Good, because I already got all the graphics done and the promotion."
The posters are ready.
Right, you're playing a show whether you like it or not.
Yeah, we're doing it. It's already promoted. Good,
but it was great, and that's one of the things that really, I mean, 2020 sucked for a billion reasons, but for us as a band. There was this momentum that started, like you said, December of 2018 with a record. We played nonstop all year. And then the last day of February of 2020, we played with the Charm City Devils and 51 Peg at that festival. That was it. That was our second EP release.
That day.
Yeah, no one had even heard that stuff. They hadn't even put it in their car yet. And so we have a record now that's a year and a half old that we've never been able to tour on or play on.
Right.
Now
I saw that.
It's old for us now, but it's brand new or unheard of to anybody who might like us or our fans or whatever,
It's brand new to me.
Yeah.
And, it got released a year ago. Like, wait a minute. And that you touched on 2019 on how, you had this momentum. I noticed you were out with, I got them written down here, Jack Russell's Great White, Bastard Pussycat, LA Guns, Tom Kiefer, Bullet Boys, and I did see a little blurb or write up from somebody, from the guy at Sleaze, at Sleaze Rocks.
Yeah.
And I got it here, and because I wanted to touch on it because it's perfect. I mean, Jeff Honorato from Sleaze Rocks says, opening acts can be tedious to sit through, but that's definitely not the case with American Jetset. This was only my second time seeing them, but when I saw they were opening for the Bullet Boys, I made it a point of getting to the venue early enough to catch their show. If you've never seen them, what are you waiting for? And we all love Sleaze Rocks. They really hit the nail on the head with everything. I look at their top 20s for the year. I look at their, and I find a lot of bands that way. And so I put a lot of stock in whatever they say. They usually hit the nail on the head with me and with a lot of other people. So when he comments something like that, I know for a fact that I have to go see American Jetset.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, if Jeff, if you're watching, thank you a million times over, because Jeff is the coolest dude. We met him that night at Bullet Boys, and then
did we meet him at MB4 for the first time? Maybe one of us or two of us did.
But I know that
we hung with them at Bullet Boys, though. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
He came to several of our shows, and he's a huge supporter. He's written at least 3 pieces about the band. He's one of the only reviewers of the 2 records, both of the records. He's just an awesome guy, and when you got a guy like that behind you, it's a lot easier to convince other people. Like when promoters see that stuff and other fans see that stuff, it makes it a lot easier for them to accept it, because music fans are weird people, right? They sort of like they're almost afraid to like something until it's okay to like it all, and that really helped out a lot.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think also some of the same thing. Will Greenberg out in Los Angeles from Will to Rock, he was an early adapter of our stuff and wrote about it, and then he came out to our show in LA and took like some great pictures and a really great write-up, and that helped us out a lot too. So having Jeff and Sleaze Rocks and having Will and other publications as well, but them to actually hear about us, write about us, and then make sure that they came out to see our show and enjoyed it. I mean, that means the world. And with Sleaze Rocks, when one of our records pops up on one of their lists, man, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, right.
I want to say hi to Jeannie. What's going on, Jeannie? I think what was her question? So
her question was, hey, I'll put it back up.
Yeah.
How psyched is American Jetset to be performing at BLE's Masquerade?
I mean, we've been talking about the Blitz since the Blitz happened. Like, how can we be a part of that thing?
Yeah.
And, I talked to Brad a couple of times over the last year or two, but we were doing a lot of shows already, and I just don't think it was ever going to be in the cards until schedules freed up. And thankfully, on some level, COVID kind of just put everything on pause and our schedule is totally wide open, and it just all was a sort of a magical moment that it kind of came into play at the same time. But
yeah,
I couldn't be more excited to play that show.
Yeah. When we first saw the bill of Blitz, we were just like, okay, we've played with like 5 of those bands. We're going to contact them. We want to be a part of this, it was, what a lineup. And most of them, the important ones in my mind, are all at Masquerade. So I'm really stoked about that.
Yeah. Right. And, I do see I'm part of the messenger team. So I do see what you guys couldn't do the last one. And then you were like, hey, we can get in on this. And bam, you were added like immediately. So, it was good. And I did notice that you guys were at MB4, and that was the one I missed that M3, or I would have been at that show.
We actually remember that show.
Yeah, this is pretty funny.
Yeah, it was we were not able to get into the Dave Dillman show because he'd already booked everybody or whatever. But we wanted to do something for M3, and so I was Brian from Fishhead, and I said, well, what if I can put the lineup together? So I ended up actually getting Every Mother's Nightmare to agree to do it, and then with us and them, and then Brian on board with the owners on board with it. That's how we started fleshing out the rest of that show.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Valentina was on that show.
Babylon Shakes.
Babylon Shakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was a good show. Wish I could have went. Man.
Hey, all those bands you just mentioned too. We'll be seeing them all in October.
All of them. I mean, yep, every one of them is going to be there. Plus a lot more. I mean, this is good. Now, mentioning Masquerade, we'll get to this later too. You guys gonna do any dressing up? I've talked to some bands that it is Halloween,
Dude,
and they're like, we're hitting the stage in costume. Fuck it.
can I Ian, can I speak to this about the masks for a second?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So we our first record has a song, Here Comes the Monsters.
Yeah.
And that was going to be the name of our tour in 2020.
Yep.
So Ian had this great idea where when we would play our shows, we would hand out these masks, like full masks that were skeletons, like a skeleton mask. And we thought it'd be really cool visually for pictures and video to have the crowd all wearing these skull masks, right? So we order a shitload of them, right? And then we decide right before our last show before COVID, we're like, let's not do it tonight. Let's do it at the next show, because then the record will be fully out and blah, 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 blah. And then the next thing you know, a month later, everybody's mask, but they're talking about these masks.
These masks.
Stupid masks.
Now we have to wait.
Now we got to be the mask guys. I mean, shit, Yeah, so we don't even know if we're going to do that now, because it's like, well, shit. Maybe Masquerade's the time to do that, but then everybody else might have another mask on. So I don't know.
I have a feeling one of us will have it.
I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
And I noticed you call your fans monsters.
That's it. Yeah.
That's what you've nicknamed your fans. I mean, like, all bands have not all bands, but they have little nicknames for their fans. And, you guys have the monsters, which is perfect. I like it.
Cool, man.
Now let's get into it. Live, Love, Die on Main is, oh my God, that's a great EP. I love it. From the start with Go It Alone. I think that was your first single. That killer guitar riffs, great vocals, all around great song. The whole EP is great. And you get that when I first put it on. I didn't notice your influences. I don't know. I didn't ever talk to you guys. I didn't know, but it was immediate that I was like, oh my God, this is like Sunset Strip, Pussycat, Cat House. This is, I'm like, man, this is sleaze. It's the sleaze music. But to me, the lyrics are a lot more thought out than your typical, no offense, Faster Pussycat, if they would ever listen to this, but they're a lot more thought out than that, is it the writing process? Is it everybody, because you touched on this, Ian, that, you did have the songs written, but, you got everybody's input on it. And, I mean, you guys ain't doing like Bathroom Wall Part 2 or Cat House Part 2. You got your own. And Going Alone, I mean, it's got the music, it's just fantastic. It's like the Sunset Strip grew up but still is in that 18-year-old mentality.
That's awesome.
And it so them were all written. How long did it take you to write them? And then like the input from the other guys, what was that like? Did they stick with it, change it?
So, Lance kind of alluded to this in a post this week, is that record was really it was almost me and Jeff primarily, meaning that Jeff would feed off, I would have Jeff feeding off the ideas and everything. And is everything going good? But I essentially recorded that record in my house. And how long, Jeff? Maybe less than 2 weeks, maybe even a week.
Yeah, because I mean, it was already sent off. I think our first practice was right before Halloween in October, and he had it sent off to the printers in late November.
I think the last song for that, the last song that I was putting together, is that we'd already had all the rock songs, so I was like, well, we have to have some ballad on this thing.
Shameless.
Right,
so then
Shameless.
We ended up writing Shameless at the last second and kind of throwing that in. And in fact, that actually ends up being the song that sold Lance on joining the band.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great song for you. How many times I hear of a band saying, we just threw that together. Janie Lane wrote Cherry Pie on a pizza box, Oh, here's the song. And it's your best song. I'm not going to say Shameless is your best song by far, but it's a great song. And to hear that you threw it together, we got to have a ballad,
Yeah, Lance was looking to get into a band, and he was, looking at ads and stuff. And when he saw ours, he heard the record and was like, okay, there's some great rock songs here. I've been playing rock guitar forever. But when he heard Shameless, he from what he says, you know, he's like, I knew that Ian could write a song when I heard that. Like he was like, not that the other ones weren't well written, but he said he knew when he heard that he had to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's awesome.
And it's a shame we don't play that song anymore live, because
I
the
know
song live is way just heavier and fun. I mean, it's just a lot more rock and roll.
Well, you control that. If you want to put it back in the set list, you're fully allowed.
Might be doing it.
I think it made its way into one set at one time.
We're gonna have to make a poll in anybody listening in the Blessed group. I'm gonna start a poll on how many want Shameless in the set list. So we're gonna get it whether they like it or not.
They're all rushing to iTunes
Well, you know,
right now to see.
What the fuck are they talking about?
Well, the weird thing about that is, you know, we're playing a lot of opening sets. You know, all of our shows are opening sets.
Right.
You know, sometimes they're short and you want to go out there and you want to throw down. You got 25 minutes to do it. So deciding to throw a ballad in there, you know, most bands, headliners that you go to see, when they do their ballad, they're 8-9 songs into their show normally.
Right.
So, and then the second record has a ballad. So it's like, well, shit. If we're going to do one at all, should we do the old one or the new? So it was always this kind of shuffle around.
Yeah, I think as much thought too into the songs that are going to go on the album. There's songs that go into the set list, and the order and the structure of it. There's a purpose. It's you know, it's kind of a performance where one song can lead into another, and there's certain points for you know, chatter, and there's certain points to just kill it and just keep going. So
that's a great point too, because our set is not like, you know, the music we do is kind of party music. Is fun, you know, it can be fun, but we don't stop to really take a break for you to like sort of take a breath. It's literally just, we are transitioning, like it's almost like a DJ set, in the sense that we transition from one thing to the next and then the next and then the next. Because the whole idea for me, and I used to argue about not doing ballads with some of the guys at one point, was like, look, we have 25 minutes to go out there and just pound people in the face with just awesome rock music. Like, let's not stop the show with this slow, drawn out thing. So,
see, I've always felt that way too, where these bands will get on stage, they hit you right when they get on stage, and they're just power, and then bam, 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 they're rolling, and 5 songs in, we're playing a love song. So everybody's standing there sweating, dripping, you know, and now we got to listen to so they all sit down, and then next thing you know, they want to get back up and go into a pound. You know, okay, ballads have their place, but when you're trying to just kill it, you know, just keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, by the time Ian announces who we are, we're already halfway through our set. Like, that's how there's no space in between songs. It plows through. And you know, that's great, because like I said, you know, we did a private event last year, and one of the coolest feelings was, even though it was a small private event, when I went out there and I hit the very first cymbal, and I realized that this is the first live music these people have heard in 7 months. That was a really cool feeling.
Right.
And although it was a small, you know, it was just this small crowd, like, knowing that was just, it was awesome. And we plowed through that set, and I was like, man, I don't know if these people know who we are, but they're definitely going to remember us.
Right. And this comment right here that says Facebook user, this is from Jim Hamby. He says, ballads are nice, but masquerades should be about killing it. And I totally agree.
No Jetset ballads at that masquerade.
No Jetset ballads from these guys. All right. It's fine by me, man. I'm almost positive there's a lot of people that feel the same way. We love live, in your face. You'll get to know the community that surrounds Bradley Entertainment. We surround. You know, there's a few different entities that we totally support, and you know, there's probably 1,000 of us easy. That, you know, no matter what, we're at the shows, we're doing this, we're doing that, and you know, I don't see any reason why you guys and your style of music will not be welcomed into our circle. You know, we have a circle, and you know, we try to keep music alive, and you guys are some of the. You've got that sound. You've got that attitude. You've got the charisma that you'll fit right in. And we'll welcome you with open arms, no doubt about it.
Right on, man.
But now the second album, which is almost an EP, it's just like a maxi EP. That is a great album. I mean, I listened to that one first, and then I went back and listened to the first one. But it leads in with the kind of you almost feel like you're on a country desert road riding in a wagon train, and then it hits you.
Yeah.
But my favorite on that is Thousand Ghosts.
Same here.
That is a fantastic song. I mean, now, was that a collaboration of writing? How did this record go versus the last record where you basically put everything together? Now you've got 4 guys, and I do believe there's a piano player in the group or backing vocals. I thought it was a piano player. I don't know, but
there are some keyboards on that record at the very end.
Yes,
on the very end. But yeah, there's a
Yes.
background singer. In
Yes.
fact, someone we work with who sang all the harmonies in the ballad.
Yes, but was it a collaboration this time around?
The whole
Everybody had input.
Yeah, the whole record was. So go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I was going to say that yes, it was, and this record was road tested. These songs before we recorded them, we had played them out live all year and tested them out in front of crowds, and then we had rearranged them a few times. Kind of producing it on the road before we went into the studio. So yeah, it was. I believe that it was. Which benefited us a lot because we got to see what worked and what didn't work in front of a live crowd.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Some songs were the ones that were written, during the parking meters and then got, kind of morphed into something else. So
Good. I mean,
Whoever
Right.
the Facebook user is my best friend. You rock, dude.
that is, Facebook user is Lance. He says he has no connection down there, but he's in the comments section. I mean, he's in here just has,
the monkey's even louder.
right.
Or maybe that's the monkey using his chat.
I'm almost
yeah.
positive. The monkey's using his thing. American Jetset will slay. Whatever. He's a monster. He's welcome in. Now,
And we recorded that record in studio. That one we didn't record at Ian's house. So
okay. Now,
Yeah, totally different feel. The whole thing.
really. Now, was it like takes, or was it just like jam, or I know some bands use they want that live feel. Everybody's in the same room and just going after it. Then there's other bands that have to do takes. They prefer it that way. They set down the bass tracks, set down the drum tracks, set down the vocals. Is that how this one went?
Well, the thing that we knew we wanted to do different with that record is that the first one was very produced. Like there's a lot of production on that record. And the idea with the second one was, even though we know that this is not an Appetite for Destruction record, but we wanted to do something like that where everything was split left and right like it was live. We wanted it to feel very live.
Right,
and so we didn't want to do a lot of extra production. We wanted it to just sort of live on its own. Even though there are some background vocals, even though there's some organ here and there, it doesn't have the intense production of the first EP for a reason, and that's it. We wanted to feel like our live set felt.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the producer is also a drummer, and he's engineered drums on a lot of records that we've all heard. So we spent a lot of time just getting that drum sound down, and I was real happy with that. So we did spend a lot of times with the drum sounds and laying down the drum tracks over and over and over again. I mean, you're a drummer. When you have a drummer, another drummer, engineer, and producing you, shit doesn't slide.
No. Do it again.
In fact, Mike, his name is Scott. He produced the drums on the last Kicks record.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And he did a bunch of Charm City Devil stuff.
Yeah.
Love them.
So he did a good job with that, man. I love working with him. A guy who'll sit there and make you try 7 different snare drums, to make sure that it's got, and we got that, and it was great. I don't know that that's what I want to do next time, But I'm glad that worked for that record. It was
right.
perfect.
Right. Now, the second record, it was kind of weird, and a lot of bands like Iron Maiden ended, I do believe it was Number of the Beast with Hallowed Be Thy Name, one of them epic ending, you want to end a record so bad. And Metallica did Master of Puppets, ended it with Damage Incorporated.
Oh,
yeah. And you want to end that record on a bang. Well, and I think you know where I'm going with this. This last record, okay, I'm listening to it, and I'm like, it can't be the last song yet. I'm listening. I'm like, I dig this. This is really cool. It's called Never Be Goodbye.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's cool, and I'm waiting. And it ended. And I'm like, wait a minute. So
they just did Never Be Goodbye. Now it's Goodbye.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
What the hell are they talking about? So I went back and I listened to it again. And I listened to it probably 5 times in a row. I was out mowing the lawn because we do that. And that's where I listen to music the most at is put them in the headphones and I can really concentrate on it. So I kind of rewound that like 5 different times. And I'm like, okay, now this is kind of like a ode to the fans, maybe?
Yes.
Kind of like we might be off tour now and we're done with the album or whatever, but there's more to come.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to speak for Ian, but again, in that structure format, if you listen, even from like you mentioned the train whistle, kind of like it has a plan. All of the songs kind of planned, and it starts as riding in town, and it's kind of like it has an ending.
It's riding out to the sunset. Yeah. And you're right. It does have. It's almost like a concept record. It really is. It had that feel to it. What?
It literally is a concept record. In fact, I don't say it very often because it sounds really corny. But what we really started to invest in certain themes as the songwriting was progressing, and a lot of it had to do with sort of, with sort of the bank robber, the cowboy, the whole thing. And so I started to develop all the lyrical content around that. And then that ended up stretching even into the production, for instance, with the beginning, the end, and then also with some of the sounds that we used in between. But it really did glue the whole record together.
Yeah. Right. And that's why I'm like, you've got that Sunset Strip sound. The attitude is right there in the music. It's but there's a different vibe in the whole thing where it's almost like a bluesy country, rock country kind of, just not a lot going on, but there's just enough where you're like, I want more of this. Yeah, where can I get more?
It's strange. I mean, people that heard Getaway Car told me, they were like, oh, that's a country song. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a rock ballad. And they're like, dude, that's crossover. And I'm like, no, it's not. And then the more I listened to it, I was like, shit, you put a little slide guitar on there that,
a little slide guitar, exactly.
I think that
we did a ballad. Sorry, Jeff, but we did a ballad before that record that had a saxophone and a bunch of crazy slide guitar that didn't sound anything like us too. So I mean, like, one of the guys that supports our band, his name is Rockney. He has a show called Rockney's Rock Box out of Europe. He's actually one of the first people who's like, these guys don't give a shit what the fuck the sound is. They're just going to do what they want to do and don't care. And he loved us for that. And that's what I think that we kind of have gone into every project saying, like, we don't care. Like, that's why Thousand Ghosts, by the way, is on that record. I mean, that's a modern rock song, right? Yeah. But it sits among all these different styles, and it worked fine.
Yeah. Look, it's a modern rock song without the hatred. Yeah. Because if you say modern rock, there's a lot of hate and shit out there. It doesn't have any of that. So
it's kind of an emo rock song without the emo. It's
exactly.
I think, one of the things for me is, and this has nothing to do with the genre of music that we're playing right now, but in high school and in like middle school, my favorite band was Fishbone. And I just loved that I could go to see a band that would play a ska song, a reggae song, and then the heaviest metal song I've ever heard, and then something else, but they were them. And every song was still them. And, I think that influences what I do in other styles of music too. And I think that's the great thing about it. I also think it's part of the reason they never got bigger than they did.
Right.
But, I think that, being younger and being influential and starting to join bands in the late 80s, having that kind of attitude of where, it doesn't matter. If this is what we're writing and we like it, let's do it.
Right. And so you want to talk influences. So you say Fishbone was one of your early influences.
Yeah.
So now, Ian, your early influences, who do you credit to that?
The two biggest influences I had in music were Nikki Sixx and Robert Smith.
I love Nikki Sixx.
Couldn't be
Kevin.
Yeah. I would say one of my biggest influences was Randy Rhoads.
Absolutely.
He was only with us for a short time, but
Right.
he was my first Les Paul. I got that Ivory Custom when I could barely hold the thing up when I was like 8, and I got this guitar, and I was like, and I listened to everything I could possibly get my hands on, and went through record after record after record, just kept buying it, just kept listening.
Right.
So,
You said Nikki, and Nikki had an all over the place influences. That guy, just drew from everywhere, and it was evident in every single album, every single, different moods in every single album, every single song.
Yeah, I mean, I was a huge Queen fan, and so I mean, like, I was an obsessed Queen fan, and I remember when I started getting into metal, and I heard the first record. There's so much Queen influence on that first record, even though it's kind of like a poor man's Queen. If you listen back to it, you'll hear it a lot of News of the World on that record that no one really picks up on, probably but me. But I absolutely love those songs, and so they stick with you for like the rest. I mean, they've been with me my entire life now.
Right.
It's a part of who I am.
Right, and that's the beauty of it. That's why, when I heard you guys for the first time, I couldn't pinpoint. A lot of bands, you go, oh, they sound just like Great White, or they sound. And who do you think they sound like? You can't do that with you guys. Yeah, there is elements in there of different bands and different tastes I have, but then it all comes together and it's like, wow, And I thought that was a perfect name for the album, Saloon Rock Whiskey Pop, because it's got that a different feel to it. The
That's
whiskey
awesome.
could be like the Whiskey a Go-Go, where it's that type of music, but then the saloon is like, that's like a country thing. Then you got like pop, which I don't think there's any pop in there, but it's like it's a perfect name for an album, just because you've got so much going on in there that just absolutely works for me. I mean, it worked. And
I remember when I
think
wrote that song too, because I wrote these guys. It had to have been about 3 o'clock in the morning, because I was in my apartment.
he never sleeps, huh?
Right. I was in my apartment and I wrote that song, and I'm like, we have to record this like tomorrow. And so I recorded it. I whisper sang it into the recorder and sent it to everybody. I was like, guys, we have got to record this song. It's going to be, and I had this whole vision for it, and they were like, I don't know.
I mean, you're like all excited. They're like, I don't know.
He might be writing it at 4 a.m., but we're reading it at like 8 a.m. with kids crawling over you and all this. We're like, what the? And he's whispering. And I got the phone up to my ear. I'm like, I got the rehearsal that night. It was all.
I was questioning what he was going to make me pull out of the archives, because I had to pull out the tenor sax for that. We will remember.
Hey, I pulled out. We played the cajon on that song, like all kinds of stuff. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Reggae music. All right, it's just so good. I mean, I love it, and now we have a new song, that you released probably a month ago. What's about a
Late
month? March.
Yeah.
Now,
new
album coming out anytime soon?
A couple weeks, right?
Really?
The next song, I think, a couple weeks, Ian, something like that.
Sure. you heard it from Jeff, everybody. No.
Yeah.
Oh, we weren't allowed to talk about that yet? I know.
No. He might, as a drummer, when your tracks are done, it's like, all right, and then it's a year later, it's ready, right?
Can we please talk about it now?
We have, we released a song. We had a handful of material, and with COVID, getting into a studio was just going to be a pain in the ass, and it was just nearly impossible. So
we
started
tried it. It was weird.
Yeah, we started just doing a bunch of DIY stuff, and we really didn't want to do anything we'd done before. So Lance sort of took on the production side, and we started recording. I don't know, a handful of stuff. We ended up putting one of those tracks out, and then we've got another one that's been in the works now for a while. There we go.
Whoops. I had something queued up and it kind of took
No,
off.
it's all good.
Okay.
Reroll the Night. That's the single you're talking about, though.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And I went on this kick where I was like, I just want to write like a bunch of Motley and Rat sounding stuff.
Nice.
And they were like, I don't know about this. And then we got together and practiced, and then we started doing it all.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as we were all actually playing it, it was like, oh, yeah, this is what we're doing. Yeah. That's We Roll the Night. Yeah. Man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great song.
Oh, thanks, man.
I mean, that's a great song. I mean, I'm sitting there going, okay, more. When's it coming out? When's it coming out? Because
talk about what's going to be in the set at Masquerade. You bet your ass we're playing that one, and that'll be the first time we've ever played it live.
Really?
100%.
Yep.
Nice. Well, you guys got Masquerade coming up, and then you got something right after that in December.
Pretty Boy Floyd.
Floyd. Yes, that's right. At the Whiskey.
Yeah.
I saw that because you guys are going to be with Pretty Boy Floyd at Masquerade, then Pretty Boy Floyd at the Whiskey. Yeah. And if you're going to be with any band, Pretty Boy Floyd is a pretty freaking great band to be with.
That show was originally supposed to be in April of 2020, and it was going to be the 30th anniversary, right?
Now we're the 31st and a half year anniversary.
Yeah, right. Now it was pushed from April to July to November, and then now it's December.
Right. I just saw them at M3, and they did 30th anniversary, and that was actually the first time I've ever seen them. And I mean, Steve Summers is just a fantastic guy. I mean, I was like in awe of him. He jokes around. He has fun up on stage.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to. And to be on with him, you guys are gonna have a blast. I mean, absolute blast.
Absolutely.
Now leading into with that, any band that you have, we'll start with you, Jeff. Any band that you could tour with, your dream tour would be with who?
Well, you got to talk about realistic and dreams.
Okay, we'll do two then. Realistically, nowadays, who you'd love to tour with?
I'd love to play with Motley Crue, of course. I mean, shit, that's
of course.
But I don't want to be, I don't want to be the band that buys into the noon slot on the stadium tour either.
No.
So, if I were to play with Crue, I'd love to play with them. But to tell you the truth, we kind of had a list of everybody who we'd want to play with, and I shit you not, I think there's only like 3 left, and that's for all of our members of the band. Like we played with the bands we want to play with for the most part. So instead of giving you an answer on that, I'd say I'd love to play big festival. I just want to be outdoors in Europe, or if Maryland could ever do one, summertime outdoors, that's what I want to do.
Right.
And as long as it's, of that genre, I mean, I'd be happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm all for the outdoor festival minus the bees this time.
We played an outdoor festival.
There's a story here.
Long. It was all of me running around the stage.
We started out, and Kevin puts his foot up on the monitor, and there was a bee's nest inside the fucking monitor.
What?
None of us knew it. It was a huge stage, right? So I'm like, man, Kevin's really getting into this. He's dancing over there,
I was
running around out there.
Moving
and
more than
bees going around his legs.
Nobody should move that much as a bass player.
Dude, Kevin, is there a video of that?
There's got to be a video of that.
Because that would be a perfect, modern, TikTok shit, just
TikTok.
Yeah, you get rid of the beats. I'll go as big of an outdoor as you want.
Wow, nice. So we're in agreement. Festivals, basically.
I think so. Ian, what about you? Is there anybody you haven't played with? You said Jet Boy and Junkyard.
Well, yeah, if we were talking, what do I want to do? I mean, I'd pick Hanoi Rocks in a hot second.
Oh, Easy.
If I had a chance to pick somebody that, if they'd come back, I'd do it. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me.
No brainer. And Hanoi Rocks. Oh my God, they were one of the best. Now, if you guys could collaborate with anybody, who would that be?
I would love. I've talked to the guys. I'd love to do a song where Steve Whiteman did a verse or two or did some backups. We talked about it. I was like, that's what I'd like to do. So that
Why
was
don't you tell him what song you wanted him to sing on?
All right. See, the only reason Ian's saying this is because he wants everybody on the chat and he wants you to disagree with me completely.
No,
really?
I'm not.
I'm supposed to disagree with another drum guy?
I wanted to do one of my favorite drum songs ever, which is "Easy Lover" by Phil Collins and Philip Bailey.
Nice.
And have Steve Whiteman do the Philip Bailey high parts. I think if you rock it out, it would fucking rock. The drum part is already solid, and I think it would be awesome. My opinion.
Hey.
It's a song that people from the 80s know, probably don't like, but they know.
I like it.
Rock it.
I'm a huge Phil Collins fan.
There you go.
Genesis, Phil Collins. I love his solo shit.
So Easy Lover is what I was trying to convince the band to do and try to get Steve to sing those Philip. And we all know that Steve could handle that shit. Like he can hit
own
those.
it. Whiteman would own it, dude.
Yeah.
We all know Whiteman. Way up here, dude.
That's right.
So we all in agreement. The one thing that you guys the whole band would like to collaborate on was with Whiteman and Easy Lover.
That was mine.
I know. I was waiting for the no.
Whoa.
All right, you.
Izzy Stradlin is who I'd want to collaborate with.
Nice.
I would love to do something.
Absolutely. That dude is phenomenal. I mean, he did. I think his best work was outside of Guns N' Roses. I mean, really.
Yeah,
he was Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses took a dump after he left, really, but he didn't. He didn't do his best work until after.
I blame Matt Sorum.
You know. Huh?
I said I blame Matt Sorum.
Matt Sorum. We could do that. I mean, there's a whole shit ton of people to blame for that shit show.
Right.
But Kevin.
I don't know if I have anything to add. I'm still a little PTSD from the bees comment. No, I'm back to the. I'm still having flashbacks and.
He's still locked in.
I'm back to the list, right? We did sit around and we made a list. So whether it's collaborating or playing with, or opening with, it's like Jeff said. I think we started checking the boxes after we already had some lineups, and then they happened. And it's like, so I think back to that, realistic versus dreamy. I think we need to build a second generation of that list. I think honestly, because I know now we have bands that we want to play with again.
Right.
I know we were supposed to play with LA Guns recently. You got Jack coming in for Masquerade. I mean, these are all great opportunities. So I think that I just extending that list and finding what's next, because we may not have thought that before, and it's like, wait, this already happened, and so maybe we shouldn't stop.
I mean, I'd love to play another show with Kicks. The one we did was a private event, and I'll tell you, we were talking about that earlier. Stranger than playing on a big stage with a very small crowd because it was private was seeing Kicks play a show in front of 50 people. That was wild.
Yes,
because they were playing like they were playing M3.
Yeah.
They play any show. They'll play a backyard picnic like it's M3.
Yeah.
I mean, if I've had the opportunity, I've seen them quite a few times, and from the Monsters of Rock cruise to M3 to the Lincoln Theater to the place up in Charlotte. God, name escapes me, but it doesn't matter if there's 300 people there or 3,000 people or 30,000 people. They play the same show, balls out, gone. I mean, and you're tired when you leave that show.
That's true.
Just from watching them. And you sit there.
Yeah.
I had Brian and Mark on one episode, and I'm like, how does Steve do it? And they're like, Steve's just Steve. And they feed off him. His energy is infectious.
Yeah, being a fan, but not being local. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh, so while I didn't grow up closer to Kicks, I knew of them and I heard of them,
Right.
and I got this. We had this opportunity, and like to Jeff said, there were so many things to think about, like the private thing, the COVID thing. It's just us and them, and it was like, and everybody was like, you can't wait. This is you're gonna be blown away, and I was. We stayed for the whole thing. I mean, we were rocking out. We became fans. I mean, it was awesome. It was great.
Right.
Yeah, that was really cool. But I would like to play with them again somewhere else.
Right.
With an actual full crowd.
That's right.
Right. Now you guys are from the Maryland area. The band is kind of calls Maryland home or Baltimore home.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you said you're from Pittsburgh. I'm from Erie. So go Steelers, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So
right.
a Baltimore-based band with a Steelers fan in it. No ratings.
Hopefully that's not going to drop off the ratings now. But
No. There's plenty of Steelers fans in Baltimore.
Yeah, my wife and I moved here about 4 or 5 years ago, so we're local now.
And so all you guys are based in Baltimore now.
Yeah, I'm
Cool.
closer to DC. Lance is over out there by Annapolis. We're spread, and then you got Northern Virginia for these guys. So it's the whole DC.
Yeah, all that hub
if you
right
could
there.
call, if you could call the DMV a state, that's where we're from.
Nice. Okay. One message that you could give fans. If you had to give your fans one message, what would it be? Ian.
One message.
One message.
We're back.
We're back.
We cannot wait to play. It's just been a crazy year. I almost feel like I have like this nervous energy all the time because we were playing so much and we were so ready to go out and tour, and excitement to just get back on stage is out of control. So we are back. That's what I would say.
Right.
Yeah. There we go Steelers. Yeah, I would say the same thing. I say, we're very anxious to get back out there again. There's only so much you can do in the studio, in a basement, in a over Kazam or whatever kind of platforms we're using.
Right.
We had a little taste of it with the private event during the pandemic, but it's time to get back out there again.
Right.
There's nothing like it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. We're all hungry for live music again, and it shows because I know my feed, my Facebook feed just is constant. New shows being announced, and I had to actually download it. I tried using Google Calendar, and I can't figure that thing out for nothing.
There's so many Google Calendar.
So I downloaded Cozy, and it's so easy to use, and I get notifications. So I'm like, oh, I got to check this. I can't do that show because I've already got 2 other shows that I got tickets for. So I got to pick one for that. It's happened so fast where I've actually doubled up on tickets going, oh, crap. I can't be in 2 places at one time.
Right.
But you got so starved, you just want to do everything, and
Hey, Masquerade, 30 bands, dude. You can't,
30 bands. I mean, you can't beat
go to
it.
all the shows in 3 days.
In 3 days, and you get to dress up.
Yeah.
And,
right.
you can dress up. It's Halloween. This place is going to be decked out. I mean, it's just going to be a full on. The excitement that I hear about it, people are very excited about this. They're wanting to dress up there. I talked to the Native Sons. They're one of the bands playing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're dressing up." So they're going to dress up. It's going to be a fun time, and I'm almost positive you guys will be out in the crowd mingling and just having a good time. Rubbing elbows and meeting the people out. We're good people. We love our music. I mean, I could speak for everybody in our group or anybody that I know in the music scene. We appreciate it. We love that bands like you guys are still out there doing it. You guys are, carrying the torch per se, of the genre of music we love.
It's dude, when you're talking about your group of people and all these people, I spent all of the 90s and all the 2000s either booking shows, playing shows, or going to shows. And I don't remember a single person having a good time. Or they didn't show it. They didn't show they were having a good time, this is the era, you know, that was the era of shoegazing and fucking, you know, depressing music and all that.
Yep.
2009, I went to M3 and I said, holy shit.
Yeah.
All these people, I mean, the crowds, they're still here and they want to have fun.
And they're not on their phones.
And yeah, and that's when I started writing Ian going, dude, like these people, man, they're still here.
Right.
Like we still exist.
Yep.
And, you know, and then once we started the band and going to these shows, I mean, it means everything to me because, you know, I look back and go, why did I like that style of music? Or why did I dig this thing? Because it's fucking depressing. I want to have fun, especially for live music.
Yeah.
You know,
Funny thing too,
you listen to whatever you want at home.
one of our deals too at the beginning was, and Jeff and I came from bands that were doing like semi-electronic music, you know, and we were like, we are never ever going to play to a click, ever. There will not be tracks running during our show. There will not be any of that shit. We're going to go out and play, and if we can't play it, we're going to go out and play that anyway, and people will just know it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We didn't want it to be like that at all because that's just not fun to me anymore to do it that way.
Yeah. It was good for what we did at the time, but now it's something different, man. This whole heartbeat is still kicking, and everybody's having a blast, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it.
We're happy to have you.
Thanks.
We're happy to have Jetset hit the scene.
Hell
I
yeah.
mean, it's I'm looking forward to seeing you guys.
All right.
I mean, from reviews I've read, and I like I said, I do a lot of sleaze rocks. I do a lot of, you know, I've heard that you guys was very good live show. Just I can't wait to see it.
And you know, we've been getting ready for this, and that's also the reason that we didn't try to do a live stream jam practice like show.
Right.
We were just like, this is going to end eventually, and we're going to get back on the stage. We didn't want to half-ass anything.
Right.
We didn't want to present ourselves in a way that wasn't what we are.
Right, because
and that's why when a lot of bands did that, I mean, it worked for some.
Right.
But
sometimes that's going to be your first impression to that person.
Yes.
And you don't want, you know, my first impression is everything. If I go see a band and they're all drunk on stage, my first impression, I'm going, fuck them. I don't even want to see it because I went and saw one band that absolutely killed it. My first impression. And the second impression, the second time I saw them, they were drunk on stage. But I got over that because I know what my first impression was and I know what they're capable of. Now, if I see somebody that I just checked out on a live stream this past year, I've already forgotten about them, most of them. And because you don't feel it like you feel it when you're standing in a crowd and you're you know, that music is coming in and you're feeling it through your bones and you're feeling that bass pumping, you know, that's the feeling you want. And that's,
right.
You know, so you're right about that.
Well, people are like, well, Sammy did it. And I'm going, yeah, but Sammy's been releasing music for 50 years. People that are watching know him. You know, he's not, you know, so all the arguments that came to me about it were like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah did it. And I go, right. And they had fans, you know, this huge group of people that were going to pay money to do it.
Not only that, too, you know, we kind of have a sort of a rule about playing live shows and just in general. We only take shows that are going to be able to present our band in the way we want it to be presented, right? And so the problem with this whole thing that happened during COVID is that's not good for anybody long term, right? So yeah, we did a couple of like listening parties because we wanted to get the album out there where we were in chat talking. But I'd rather just sort of maintain sort of a mystery about the band anyway. I don't need to be on a half-ass video running around my fucking office, you know, singing my song at the top of my lungs. Nobody needs to see that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
So one thing that we did do is that we actually had the last show we played at the Whiskey with Jack Russell. We had it filmed, professionally filmed.
Oh, yeah.
And no one had ever seen that except for one video that we made of it. So we did do a live stream, but it wasn't a live stream. It was just a live stream of this show that we had played. So there was we were performing in front of a crowd. You know, it was a sold out crowd there. So we did do that, and I thought that was fine, and I think it presented itself pretty well. But yeah, as far as putting on a live stream concert, come to Masquerade. You'll get it.
Come to Masquerade, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it from 30 different bands. And you know what? The one thing about these things is I've noticed, like M3, Masquerade, anything that Brad puts on is usually top notch. I mean, just great. And all the bands, they bring their A game, because you don't want to be that band that was flat. You want to be that band that people walk out and they're going, you know, with the except everybody walked out going, except owned M3. You want to be that band.
Oh, and we all know
people talk about it.
We all know the ones from that weekend who didn't bring their A game, because everybody's talking about it more than they're talking about who killed it.
Right. You know, and you don't want to be that band. So the beauty of a Masquerade and 30 bands, 3 days, is you're going to get that A game. You're going to get that from every band. Whereas maybe on a Thursday night in Chattahoochee, Tennessee, you know, you're not going to get their A game because it's a Thursday night in Chattahoochee, Tennessee.
Right.
But, you know, that's the one luxury. So everybody get out and see these guys at Masquerade. They are not going to disappoint. Hit me with your websites. How do I get your website? So everybody knows, so they go get merch. They have t-shirts, they have CDs, they have hats, they got stuff. Go to their merch, buy. What's your website?
AmericanJetset.com, and I believe it is AmericanJetset.bandcamp.com is the store.
The store, yes.
And check out We Rule the Night on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you stream.
Yeah, wherever you stream.
That's the
American
new
Jetset
single. Yep. That's the one you're going to be looking for at the show.
Yep. And all their music is on Spotify. But like we all do, we might check it out on Spotify, but we usually buy the physical copies because you got to have the physical copy of everything.
Absolutely.
I do.
Hey, dude. Hey, but one of the bands on my record label, I just released their album on cassette.
That's awesome. I heard them were coming back.
It sold more than the CDs.
Right. It's a nostalgia thing. I mean, you might want to charge me $50 for the record album. Please don't charge me $50 for the record album.
No.
And $20 for the CD. I'm going for the album because I have 1,000 albums in my rock group. I mean,
you know, it's the people, like the band even made a little video commercial for it, and they had somebody going, I'm holding it in my hand. It's tangible media. You know, I love that shit, man. We've been talking about doing a vinyl record recently, but you know, there you go. But doing an EP on vinyl is a little weird, and that's all we've done. So we're digital right now. We got CDs, and who knows? You know, I've been pushing these guys about vinyl. Let's see if we can make it happen.
Now, you guys going to bring merch to Masquerade?
Oh, yeah.
You've got plenty of time to get it in stock.
Oh, yeah.
We got plenty. We're ready to go. We were already ready.
Good.
We were ready for a tour.
Yes, we have all the stuff that we had.
So your living room's got boxes in it just waiting to go to Masquerade now.
Good thing we didn't write 2020 on it.
That's funny. You go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So we actually had a special T-shirt that we put out. It was for our summer tour, the previous summer, and it actually became the #1 seller. And we sold the last one. It still has the date on it. We sold the last 2 of them like last month. I mean, the shirt's 2 years old, so the date certainly didn't matter to the people that bought it.
Nope, it's a
shout out to Rachel. If you're listening, Rachel. Rachel's a fan out of LA who came to see us saw us with Jack Russell, and she's an awesome supporter of our band.
Nice. That's good to hear. Well, I thank you guys so much for doing this. I'm
thanks for
sure
having us.
A lot of people appreciate it. I'll stay in touch. May do it again. You know, when you got more stuff coming on. I mean, we'll just get on here and let people know what you got coming up, because I'm almost positive your calendar is about to be full. From what I've heard of your music, your calendar is going to be full. It's going to be full.
Really appreciate having us on.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much for having us. Everybody will see you at Masquerade.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Peace.
Bye
Peace.
now.